Christopher Germer says, "A moment of self-compassion can change your entire day. A string of such moments can change the course of your life." Welcome to Oxygen for Educators. I'm one of your hosts, Michelle Kinder. It's our hope to bring you thought-provoking, unscripted conversations full of actionable ideas to fuel your important work in the world. Thanks for tuning in. This space is for you. Hi friends, this is Michelle Kinder, and welcome back to our series Radical Hope, Inner Work with a Ripple Effect. Today we're diving into an important research-supported practice, self-compassion. Self-compassion is the practice of being kind and understanding toward oneself, especially during times of suffering or perceived failure. As you start a new school year, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that having a practice of self-compassion could set the tone for what kind of school year you end up having. We'll explore it in two forms: tender self-compassion, which is comforting, soothing, and treating ourselves kindly, and fierce self-compassion, which is protecting, providing, and motivating action on behalf of ourselves and others. By the end of the episode, you'll have a clear understanding of both, plus 3 practical tools you can start using today. And we hope you'll see how self-compassion doesn't change just your inner life. It shapes how you show up for the people and causes you care about. So let's jump in. If you have felt lately like you are navigating uncharted waters, you are not alone. We've been carrying a collective load of uncertainty, instability, and fear. For many, especially educators and leaders, there's a constant low-grade anticipatory anxiety, and many find themselves going through their day bracing for impact. But it's more than external events that mess with our peace and our power. Our internal response to what's happening can amplify discomfort and distress. Something hard might happen, and then we pile judgment and shame on top of what's already difficult, increasing our chances of a dysregulated nervous system. Have you heard the fable of the 2 arrows? When we experience something painful, whether physical or emotional, it's like being struck by the first arrow. The first arrow is unavoidable pain of life, illness, loss, disappointment, physical injury, etc. But then most of us shoot ourselves with a second arrow, our mental and emotional reaction to the pain. This second arrow is optional suffering. Self-criticism, rumination, shame, resentment, catastrophizing. For example, imagine you make a mistake at work. The first arrow is the mistake happening. You feel disappointment and maybe anxiety. The second arrow is you piling on by telling yourself something like, "I'm terrible at my job. I'll never get this right. People probably think I'm incompetent." The second arrow makes the pain worse, prolongs it, and can even overshadow the original event. We often can't avoid the first arrow, but we can learn to stop the second one. Mindfulness and self-compassion are key tools here. They let us notice pain, acknowledge it, and respond without adding layers of judgment or self-punishment. Self-compassion interrupts the spiral. It changes the inner conversation, and that shift can alter your physiology, your choices, and the energy you bring into every space. Think of a recent hard moment. What did your inner voice sound like? A drill sergeant, a cold judge, or a compassionate friend? Dr. Kristen Neff's research defines self-compassion with 3 components. The first component is self-kindness, literally turning our kindness toward ourselves. treating yourself with the gentleness you would offer a loved one. For example, if a student turned in late work because of a crisis at home, you'd likely respond with patience. But what would it look like to offer yourself that same tone? The second component is common humanity. We are all in this together. This one is about remembering that struggle is part of being human. No one escapes it. The person who seems to have it all together, they are carrying unseen burdens too. The third component is mindfulness, seeing things in our lives for what they are, holding your feelings and experiences with balanced awareness so they don't consume you. For example, shifting from I am a failure to I'm feeling disappointment right now. This third component creates space for perspective and choice. Let's do a mini practice together. Take a breath and think of one area where you've been critical of yourself and name it. Remember, you're not alone. Many others are also struggling. And offer yourself a kind phrase like, may I find peace. Whenever discussing self-compassion, it can be helpful to talk about what it isn't. It's not self-esteem, which rises and falls with how you feel about yourself in the moment. It's not self-pity, which isolates you in pain. And it's not self-indulgence, which chases short-term comfort at the expense of long-term well-being. True self-compassion will repeatedly nudge you toward what nourishes you. Kristen Neff describes self-compassion as having yin and yang qualities. Tender self-compassion is the yin. It is soft, receptive, and nurturing. It helps us acknowledge pain, soothe ourselves, and hold space for our humanity. It's this tender version that comes to mind for most people when thinking about self-compassion. But equally important is the yang, fierce self-compassion, which is active, protective, and empowering. It helps us set boundaries, speak truth, and take action. Many people, especially women and caregivers, are socialized toward the tender side. Be kind, be understanding, be accommodating. Without fierceness, we can burn out, stay silent, and accept conditions that harm us. Fierce self-compassion gives us the courage to say no when a request violates our capacity or values, to advocate for fair treatment for ourselves or others, and to take risks to protect what matters most. Fierceness isn't about aggression. It's grounded in care. Its purpose is to protect and nurture, never dominate or harm. And balancing out the tender and fierce is critical. Tender without fierce can lead to passivity. Fierce without tender can lead to rigidity. We need both. Tender to meet ourselves with love when we fall, and fierce to ensure we're not continually placed in harm's way. Here are some examples. Tender, I understand why I'm exhausted. Fierce, I need to adjust my workload. Tender, I forgive myself for making that mistake. Fierce, I'm going to push for a process change so others don't face the same challenge. Tender is resting after a tough parent conference. Fierce is looking for a structural shift that'll make those conferences more constructive. Research shows that self-compassion reduces anxiety and depression, increases resilience and life satisfaction, boosts motivation through encouragement and not fear. From a neuroscience perspective, when we feel safe internally and relationally, the prefrontal cortex, our creative problem-solving center, comes online. That's when we can think clearly, connect deeply, and lead effectively. Self-compassion is a sign of safety that moves us into a ventral vagal safe and connected, regulated nervous system. Even though in the literature, the case has been made for self-compassion, many are still reluctant to engage. Paul Gilbert, Chris Irons, and colleagues found in their recent research that fears hold us back from self-compassion. Many of us carry the suspicion that being kind to ourselves will make us lazy, self-indulgent, or unmotivated. In reality, research shows self-compassion boosts motivation and persistence because it removes the paralyzing weight of shame. Let's connect 3 powerful bodies of work that together can change the way we relate to ourselves, especially when things get hard. First is Bessel van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score, which shows us how trauma affects the nervous system and what conditions foster healing. Second, you've already heard about in this episode, is Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion, which gives us the mindset and heart set to meet our own suffering without shame. And third is Kelly McGonigal's work on willpower, which reveals that self-compassion isn't just good for our hearts. It's one of the strongest predictors of staying committed to our goals. Van der Kolk gives us the what of trauma healing. Establish safety, reconnect with your body, and restore agency. Neff gives us the how, self-kindness, common humanity, and mindfulness. When you map Van der Kolk and Neff's work together, some key things emerge. Establishing safety and self-kindness meets your suffering with a warmth instead of judgment, which signals safety to your nervous system. Mind-body awareness without judgment helps you notice early signs of dysregulation and choose a healthy response. Reconnection and common humanity is remembering you're not alone in your struggles, which reduces shame and nervous system overdrive. We have the capacity to use encouragement and perspective to fuel a steady sense of control and empowerment. Now, let's layer in Kelly McGonigal's insights from the willpower instinct. She found that self-compassion predicts goal persistence more than self-criticism ever could. We tend to believe that being hard on ourselves will keep us in line, but in reality, it triggers shame, puts our nervous systems in threat mode, and drains the mental resources we need for self-control. When we respond to setbacks with compassion, acknowledging our humanity, adjusting without judgment, we preserve our willpower. That means we can re-engage with our goals faster and with more energy. Say you planned to go for a run, but slept in. Self-criticism says, I'm so lazy, I'll never stick to this. That floods your system with cortisol, the stress hormone, and makes it more likely you'll skip tomorrow too. Self-compassion says, I've been tired lately. I'll go for a walk at lunch instead. This keeps the loop alive and the nervous system regulated, so tomorrow's run is more likely to still be on the table. So here's the through line. Vander Kolk helps us understand the conditions that allow healing. Neff shows us the compassionate stance to walk that path. And McGonigal proves that compassion is also a secret ingredient in sustaining the changes we want to make. Together, they make a strong case for treating yourself with the same care and encouragement you'd offer to someone you love. Based on the work of these three brilliant people, that's not indulgence. It turns out it's strategy. Now let's turn our attention to 3 self-compassion practices that you can start today. The first is the self-compassion break from Kristen Neff. This is one of the simplest and most portable practices I know. You can use it anywhere, in the car, in a staff meeting, even in the middle of a conversation. Step 1 is to acknowledge the struggle. Silently say to yourself, this is a moment of suffering. You can swap in your own words. This is really hard, or wow, this hurts. The point is to name what's happening without judgment. I want to share with you that I often use this practice and get reliably huge relief just from this first step. I'm not sure why it's so powerful. Maybe the naming of the struggle, or possibly pointing out that it's a moment in time and that it will pass. I'm not sure, but this step has served me so well over the years. Step 2 is to remember our shared humanity. Say silently, suffering is part of life. This step interrupts the isolation that says I'm the only one messing this up. It reminds you every single human on this planet knows what it's like to struggle. Step 3 is to offer kindness to yourself. Say silently, may I be kind to myself? And you can get specific. May I give myself the compassion I need? May I learn to forgive myself? May I find the strength to move forward? For example, let's say you snapped at your partner or a student. Instead of mentally replaying it and piling on criticism, you pause, take a breath, and move through these steps. This is a moment of suffering. Suffering is a part of life. May I be kind to myself. Notice the shift and spaciousness this exercise creates. Just taking those few seconds can shift how you handle the next 5 minutes and often the rest of your day. The second practice comes from meditation teacher Tara Brach and is the acronym RAIN. RAIN is a 4-step mindfulness practice that blends awareness with compassion. It's especially helpful when you're in the grip of strong emotions like anger, fear, or shame. R is recognize what's going on. Name the emotion or thought without judgment. This is anxiety. This is frustration. A is to allow the experience to be there. Instead of pushing it away, say, it's okay that this is here right now. This doesn't mean you like it, just that you're letting yourself feel it. I is to investigate with curiosity and care. Ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? What does it need right now? Approach it like you would a child who's upset, curious and gentle, not interrogating. And the N is to nurture with self-compassion, offering a kind phrase, placing your hand where you feel the tension, or imagining surrounding yourself with warmth and safety. For example, you're feeling overwhelmed by work. Instead of bulldozing through, you pause for rain. You recognize the overwhelm. You allow it to be there. You investigate the tightness in your chest. And you nurture by taking a deep breath with your hand over your heart. The final practice is soothing touch. Touch can be a direct line to calming your nervous system because it activates the body's caregiving response. Even if it feels awkward at first, the body often responds before the mind catches up. Here are some ways to try it. Place a hand over your heart, noticing the warmth and maybe some gentle pressure. You can cup one hand over the other in your lap. You can gently touch your cheek or rest your hands on your belly. For even more effect, pair it with kind words like, "It's okay, I've got you," or "This is hard, but you're not alone." Physical touch triggers an oxytocin release, which lowers stress hormones and signals safety to your nervous system. For example, after a difficult phone call, instead of jumping straight to the next task, you pause, place a hand on your heart, and take 3 slow breaths. That tiny pause can shift your whole internal state and move you from a survival state of fight, flight, or shutdown to a regulated ventral vagal, safe and connected nervous system state. To review, the 3 exercises are the self-compassion break, rain, and soothing touch. Self-compassion also means knowing when to get help. If your functioning, sleep, or hopefulness have been deeply affected for more than 2 weeks, or you're in intense distress, please reach out to a mentor, therapist, or friend. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. If you want to learn more, I want to share a few trusted resources on self-compassion. It won't surprise you, anything by Kristen Neff, including her books Self-Compassion and Fierce Self-Compassion, and accompanying workbooks. She has lots of free resources on her website, selfcompassion.org. Also, anything by Christopher Germer. And there are 2 self-compassion decks that I recommend. The first is just called the Self-Compassion Deck, and the second, Awakening Self-Compassion Cards. And lastly, Lisa Baylis has a great book called Self-Compassion for Educators: Mindful Practices to Awaken Your Well-Being and Grow Resilience. Christopher Germer says, "A moment of self-compassion can change your entire day. A string of such moments can change the course of your life." In Radical Hope, we believe our inner work creates ripples. By practicing both tender and fierce self-compassion, we not only care for ourselves, we create the capacity to keep showing up for the work and people we care about. So maybe today, when you hit a rough spot, you'll pause and you'll remember our shared humanity, and you'll offer yourself kindness. That one choice might shift things dramatically for the adults and the students in your care. For our next episode in the Radical Hope series, we'll be talking about the inner critic and the inner mentor. Thank you so much for your kind attention, and I'll see you then. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Oxygen for Educators. Please like, share, and follow, and if inclined, leave us a 5-star review so that we can keep making content for you. Let us hear from you if you know someone we should interview or a topic we should cover.